This segment of Delmarva Life is brought to you by Peninsula Regional Medical Center.
You know, for a lot of us, we don't even think twice about what we eat. Burger here, soda to go along with it, bowl of ice cream to polish it all off. Don't even think about it.
But for the many people living with diabetes, they really have to think about every meal they eat, as well as what foods they're eating.
The American Diabetes Association reports that nearly 26 million children and adults in the United States have diabetes. That is about 8.3% of the general population. Of those numbers, the association reports 7 million people don't even know they have diabetes. And how about this? 79 million of us have prediabetes, which is a precursor to the disease. Well, if diabetes is not managed and controlled, the consequences can be kind of scary.
In fact, diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death in this country, something our next guest knows all too well. Ashley Zarzinski of Ocean Pines lost her 28-year-old husband Neil to the disease in July. That was just 4 months ago. And she joins us now to share her husband's story, along with Regina Kundal, a nurse practitioner who specializes in diabetes with Peninsula Regional Medical Center. Ladies, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Ashley, I want to talk about Neil a little bit. He was actually diagnosed with diabetes 2.5 years ago.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
He just woke up one morning feeling really weak, and we noticed he'd been drinking a lot more than usual and couldn't get enough to drink. And he woke up for work and couldn't get dressed, so we took him to the hospital, and that's when we found out he had diabetes.
Diabetes. Well, this is a tough story to share, and we understand that. So thank you for taking the time to do this. Did he get regular checkups? Did he stay on top of what was going on with him? What was that like?
He tried really hard to do everything he could because he wanted to be here. We had so many plans, you know.
With the children and everything. So tell us about the last morning with Neil.
Okay. Well, actually, on a Saturday, we had a cookout. He was building shelves in our living room, and then Sunday, he started feeling funny in the afternoon, and by Monday morning, he was severely ill. We thought it was a stomach bug, and eventually we decided he needed to go to the hospital, but by that point, he couldn't even stand up to get dressed. So I had to call 911, and he stopped breathing while I was on the phone with the dispatcher, and I had to move him to the floor with our 4-year-old daughter there watching, and the ambulance came and they worked on him there, and then they took him to the hospital where they continued to do compressions. He was in cardiac arrest. He stayed in the hospital not even 3 days, and by Wednesday morning he was diagnosed brain dead at 10:32, and the cause of death was diabetic ketoacidosis, and happened so quick. So quick.
We are so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
It was 2.5 years before that happened that he was diagnosed. What was it like for you and the kids to live with that, to watch what he was going through?
The kids didn't really understand why I had to get shots and stuff, and so they were very curious. They're young. Our twins are 6 and our daughter's 4, so they were very curious, but we did our best to eat healthier, and he was very active and healthy otherwise, so we didn't think this was coming, you know. We had plans, and so many plans, and just all of a sudden, bam, when you least expect it. Our life was like as perfect as it had ever been.
So sorry. Regina, turning to you now, for most of your life, you've also been living with diabetes. Tell us your story.
Well, I was 15 when I found out that I had type 1 diabetes, and back then the picture wasn't quite so positive as it is now. They told me that I was going to have complications no matter how good a control I took of myself, and that I was going to die early, and pretty much good luck with that. And I did my best to do whatever I needed to do, whatever I could do to try to take care of myself. Never ended up in the hospital like a lot of kids do with DKA, the ketoacidosis, and pretty much did the best that I could. And then about 1983, there was the start of a large study that took a look at, does it make a difference if you have good control? Can you reduce your the risk of having complications? And they took about 10 years and stopped it early and found out that yes, indeed, that the better your numbers are, the least chance of having any of the complications. And so that year I went on an insulin pump because that's what they showed, that if you did more intensive management of your diabetes, that it would really reduce that risk. And so that was good news for me. They were wrong, and I really don't have complications after 35 years.
That's wonderful.
And the technology that's available is just wonderful.
Now, there are two different types of diabetes. There's type 1, there's type 2. What's the difference?
Type 1 diabetes, and it's a really good question because people get it mixed up. They think it has to do with how old you are, whether you're on insulin or not, but really it's about how you got diabetes. The type 1 that I have and that Neil had is an autoimmune condition where the body sees the cells that make insulin as foreign and attack it. So over a short time period, more and more of those cells, stop functioning.
You can't prevent it.
No, you can't prevent it.
Okay.
Typically what triggers it off is a viral illness. And I had the mumps shortly before I got the diabetes, and that's a virus. So.
And type 2?
And type 2 is more about insulin resistance, where the body has to make more insulin to do the same job. So you're working those cells a lot harder. And we do things to try to lower that resistance and help your pancreas with that insulin. But after a while, the cells themselves actually burn out and don't produce insulin anymore. And if you live long enough, you'll end up on insulin as a type 2 diabetic, but you're a type 2 diabetic who's insulin dependent. They're managed by insulin.
Okay.
Now there's something called pre-diabetes. Tell us about that.
It's a classification according to how well your body's able to manage sugar or glucose, and it's once you stop being able to manage it normally, the higher you go, you're in the pre-diabetes, and then eventually once you reach a certain number, if your A1C is greater than 6.4, then you're labeled diabetic. And then you got to go back and figure out, well, which kind of diabetes do you have? And there's some, really easy ways to tell.
Alrighty. Well, that's one of the reasons that PRMC has an upcoming event is to get the word out. So tell us about that.
Yes. Dr. Snitzer's going to be giving a talk on Monday in the Avery Hall building, and it's from 6 to 8 p.m. He's going to be talking about infections and diabetes, but also anything else that's bugging you about diabetes. We're going to have vendors there from different companies related to diabetes, and during that time, before he speaks, I'll be giving flu shots to the people that show up, trying to just, again, improve the health of the communities we serve.
Right.
Ashley, is there a message, is there one thing that you would like to tell people about your experience, a message you'd like to give?
If you have diabetes and you're feeling even a little bit off, go to the doctor right away. Don't chance it because something can happen so quick. And also, I think everybody should cherish every second that they have with their family because you never know when you're going to lose them.
Thank you for coming on with us today.
Thank you.
It's great having you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Very
Regina.
much.
And if you would like more information from PRMC on diabetes or more details about the upcoming event, go to our website, delmarvalife.com, click on the show tab. Now, as we just heard, a big part of lowering your risk of diabetes is watching what you eat.
The biggest mistake people make is having foods that have absolutely no nutritional values.
Take a look at your breakfast. You may think what you're eating is healthy. Well, think again. We'll learn the top 5 foods that may be harming your health first thing in the morning.
A little bit later on, it's a tradition that pays homage to the great outdoors here on Delmarva, the Waterfowl Festival in full swing in historic Easton. Find out how the festival has evolved over the past 4 decades and learn what will never change. But first, we just learned about diabetes. Dr. Oz says this is the perfect time of year to find out if certain diseases, like diabetes, run in your family.
Thanksgiving, like other family holidays, sometimes means being with people you have nothing in common with, except your genes. And of course, the desire to consume mass quantities of food. Find out if you have a close family member who developed heart disease or hardening of the arteries early in life. This means you could too. The same holds true for certain cancers. If you have 2 close relatives who've had either breast or ovarian cancer, you should start screening at age 25. Depression and anxiety related to chemical imbalances can also run in families. So seek help if you experience chronic mood-related problems. Armed with knowledge of your family history, you can start routine medical tests and make necessary lifestyle changes, and beat the genetic odds. So this year, don't ignore the relatives, learn from them instead.